Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting of the Regional Planning Governing Board to order at 2:30. I'd like to welcome members Rodriguez and member Anderson. Thank you for joining this wonderful board. So the first item on the agenda is roll call. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Clara Andrula,
Present.
Diane Vanderwell,
Here.
Brandy Anderson. Here. Mike Clark,
Present.
Naomi Dewar, Jean Herman, absent. Ed Lawson. Here. Devin Reese, Joe Rodriguez, and Kathleen Taylor. Non-voting member Beth Smith. And we have a quorum.
Thank you. Council Member Abbott, would you like to do the salute to the flag? Okay. So full transparency, I think most of us had a very, very huge lunch, so please be patient with me on that. I'd like to call for approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
We have a motion by Member Vanderwell. We have a second? Second. Mr. Rodriguez, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're on item number 4, approval of the minutes for December 12th, 2024 of the Regional Planning Governing Board. I'd like to call for a motion to approve unless someone has any edits or any changes that they would like to disclose.
Madam Chair, move to approve.
We have a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by a motion by Member Vanderwell, a second by Member Anderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I'd like to call for public comment. Do we have any public comment at this time?
We do. We have one. We have Donald Abbott.
We're restricting this to 3 minutes. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. I'm just here to say thank you for letting me serve on this board for almost, I think, 7 years. It was the first chairmanship I ever had, so it's kind of a special place here. Mr. Smith and I think he got the executive spot, I got chairmanship, and we figured it out together in those earlier years, and it was fun. And you have some amazing staff over here that just have just a great team. It's been fun to be a part of it. I just want to say thanks. It's still on my calendar, so I haven't scheduled anything over this today. So I thought I'd come in and say hi. I am not going to stick around. I'm sorry. It's not goodbye. I'll see you around, which I know I'll see you guys around, but I'll see you guys around too. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's not agendized, but we could make a motion to make you stay. It's not agendized, so I'm sure the attorney won't let us, but it was a thought. Thank you for your service, really. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move to item number 6, which is the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss about that? Or have a presentation or any information? It's in the packet.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
prepared to make a motion. I move to ratify the contract with Tom Clark Solutions for the 2025 legislative session.
We have a motion by Member Vanderwell. May I have a second, please?
Second.
We have a second by Member Clark. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move now to item number 7A, consideration and possible action to form the RPGB Legislative Subcommittee for the 2025 legislative session.
Good afternoon, Governing Board members. Chris Tolley, Team RPA, has introduced. This item is for the formation of the Legislative Subcommittee. Oh, there we go. To address the 83rd session of the Nevada Legislature, which started on February 3rd. The entire session is limited to 120 days, so that puts the end date at June 2nd. And then as A typical component of both the legislative session as well as the Regional Planning Governing Board, which forms a legislative subcommittee, and that is typically composed of the current chair, the current vice chair, and then the most recent past chair. And through those seats on the legislative subcommittee, you get coverage for each of the jurisdictions on the governing board. And then an additional practice is naming alternates. As was instituted this last cycle, basically all of the Regional Planning Governing Board were identified as alternates. And that is what staff is recommending for this, which we have it there. It's also in the packet, but this has got the full text of what staff is recommending for legislative subcommittee.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? So just to be clear, the chair would be myself, Vice Chair Vanderwell, and the immediate past president is Member Devin Reese.
Yeah.
Just to make sure everybody knows who the people are. So, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Thank you. We have a motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by Member Dewar, a second by Member Vanderwell. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll move now to 7B, a presentation, discussion, and possible adoption of the TMRPA budget for fiscal year 2025 through 2026.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's Jeremy Smith for the record. I'll take us through a presentation about the budget. That's item 7B. Okay, right. First slide. Yeah, so as you well know, since you guys sit on this board, but for the new members, TMRPA staff bring the initial discussion for budget setting for the next fiscal year to the October meeting. That is a request that has been made of staff, and so we've been bringing that first discussion in October. Thank you. And then that starts just kind of vetting assumptions of where we think we're at. That's very close after we've just adopted the previous year budget. But what it does is it allows us to have a discussion and then take that discussion to the city and county managers because they're really the arbiters of any potential increases to the jurisdictional allocations that fund regional planning. So that is exactly what we did this year. We talked about it in October. We also talked about it in December, and in December, I spoke with both city managers and the county manager regarding the budget allocations. So in terms of our budget, it has gone through cycles, through time. Back in the mid-2000s, it was even higher than it is today. It came down in the Great Recession like everything did, and we've been slowly building it back up over the past few years to really achieve fiscal sustainability for the agency. That was a charge that this board gave me. There's always been question of that, and so we really have tried to get ourselves to a position where we feel very solid and secure in terms of the finances. Some of the ways we do that is we've been enhancing and building our shared work programs that we have with the Regional Transportation Commission and the Western Regional Water Commission. And also it's through these little annual jurisdictional increases that we see. 2 years ago, we had a very nice chunk that was added. It allowed us to hire Carla and have an actual admin assistant for the agency, which has been fantastic. Last year, during the discussions, we decided collectively that a good idea would be to tie any allocation increase request to the West Region Consumer Price Index. And so that's exactly what we've done for the past year and also this year. Last year, it was a 3.6% increase. This year, 2.1% was the October value for West Region CPI. And so that is the target that we had for our increase and what I discussed with the managers and that they agreed to. And so you can see there the numbers, the changes in each jurisdiction's allocation to regional planning. And you'll notice that the city of Reno pays a little more. And that's because the city of Reno has 4 members on this board owing to the fact that it has 52% or more, give or take, of the population in the county. And so through the law, that enables them to have an additional member, but also to pay for that membership. And so that's how it breaks down. In the end, it's about $22,000 additional dollars for the year compared to what we're receiving right now. So that's pretty illegible. But what the key here is that this is our estimate to complete. We always do this in advance of setting the budget. We look at what have we done over the past 6 months. So from July 1 to December 31st, how have we been spending versus the budget we approved last year, and where are we? Well, in fact, we look pretty good. We're coming in at about, we think, about 97% of our projected revenue, and we think our spending will be about 95% of what we projected. So, in fact, we were looking to eat into our fund balance by about $36,000, give or take. Now we're projecting about $6,000 or $7,000 of that. So a lesser kind of pull from that fund balance we're building. So we look really on track to meet what we said. So that even considers some of these assumptions that we've built in to finish out the current year that were a bit unexpected. We didn't quite think of it when we put this together last year, but it's all really good stuff. First off, Damian Kerwin, our longstanding GIS analyst and GIS coordinator, has left the agency and moved on to a great opportunity at the Truckee Meadows Water Authority. So they're really lucky to have him over there doing GIS for Tumwa, and we are looking then to replace Damian's position. Probably he was the GIS coordinator, which was really the second management position at the agency. We're looking to backfill that position at a lower level, and then the staff that are in existence at the agency, we're going to look at that in terms of that secondary management perspective. So we're targeting that for March, and the reason I want to hold off just a little bit is that we're in the midst of having to keep up with technological change when it comes to GIS, which is Geographic Information Systems, and really is kind of one of the hallmarks of the work that we do at regional planning is implementing GIS. We've been very successful with pretty static costs for GIS over the past, I would say, 7 to 8, even more like 10 years. But the technology is now moving forward. ESRI, which is the company that props up ArcGIS and all of the ARC mapping components, is shifting their user model, or has shifted, and it's sort of in process from a floating license model to a named user model. So that's going to increase the outlay of licensing for the next fiscal year. But further, they are looking at upgrading the ArcGIS enterprise structure, and that's somewhere that we have actually, we've been static. We've fallen behind a little bit in terms of servers don't last forever. The operating systems are not supported, right? We're getting more and more traction on our online maps. And so what I'm asking to do here is basically increase our ArcGIS enterprise server licensing to allow for a 6-core server. Currently, we're at a 4-core server, which is pretty darn powerful, but 6 will give us a little extra. That initial cost for 1 year is $11,600. Then going forward, it becomes a maintenance cost, which is about 25% of that annually. Also, we want to actually get a new server, a machine, to keep up, get the latest and greatest OS on there, SQL Server, and make sure we're at that sort of where the technology is today as we transition the greater licensing for Esri. So well able to, as you saw from the estimate to complete, that's all incorporated in. So we're very capable of making these purchases and implementing this. And then I'll be spending some time as the GIS person again to get all of this implemented and make it hum. So there's that. And then further, what we want to bring back in April, and really at the request of the chair and vice chair, which is a really good idea, is to sort of do a better job of identifying some strategic goals for the work plan of the agency. We've been on a track since the 2019 update. We really had already tasked ourselves during that update to do the natural resources planning effort and to do the public infrastructure planning effort. We did both of those. They've now been established back in December. Thank you again for that vote. And so now we're looking ahead to what exactly is it that we want to be moving towards. I've talked about the third pillar, which is all about the GIS side, tracking development, looking at the parcel data, documenting that, and creating a guide, if you will, for the community that's transparent so you can see exactly how we forecast the future and what are the assumptions. And in so doing, hopefully we can get some feedback and continue to improve that process and just kind of daylight it. So that's kind of the goal there. But we want to be more targeted because one of the critiques is that the evaluation of the director position is fairly perfunctory. And, we'd like to see a little more of a link between the tasks that we say we're going to do and then did we accomplish them, and have that really be kind of a measure, a report card, if you will, for the agency. So planning to bring that back in April for your approval, and then we would start that program on July 1. In terms of assumptions for next year, beyond just those goals, we're looking to do that 2.1% increase to the allocations, continue the existing shared work programs with RTC and WRWC, up to 5% merit increase for staff. Everything is going up in cost in that line item that I have on that bullet there in terms of bookkeeping, audit, data, software, health insurance, all of that stuff. So just making sure we keep up with that. And I'm sure you all saw the big jump in the PERS rate. So that's also something we've been considering for this upcoming budget. So again, kind of a small text thing here. But what you can see, I think, is the key is that we're looking at about 1.2 million in revenue and about 1.25 or so in total expenditures. So, and the idea there is that we have, through annual savings, just like I showed in the estimate to complete, we've been building our fund balance, and you can see it's up there, estimated at the beginning of 2025 to be around $350,000. So that's really good and healthy, but I think maybe we don't want to see that exaggerate. We want to utilize that, keep the budget balanced. And so we look like this budget looks like it would dig into that by about 69,000, leaving us at 283,000 with our fund balance, which is a really good spot to be. And this one's also tough to see, probably easier in the packet. But in fact, I did this last year, and I was predicting that our fund balance would be at 250,000 at the start of this next fiscal year, but we're looking at actually closer to 283,000. So in fact, we're doing pretty good based on the 5-year. It's always good to look out and think about the scenario of the future that we may face. But in terms of how we're trying to balance this is small annual allocation increases that are based on CPI, and then balancing out that fund balance to fill any gaps so that in the next 4 to 5 to 6 years, we would achieve a more of a static fund balance around 10 to 12% of the agency budget. So that is the goal. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and there's a proposed motion on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I really want to thank you for the consideration to look at the board having goals attached to the performance and then what those measurements look like. I think it really gives the board an opportunity to support all the staff, but when you're doing a performance and not having clear measurements and outcomes, it's very challenging. So I really appreciate your willingness as I went through some of these suggestions, and I think the board will appreciate it, but I do want to say thank you. I also want to say thank you to legal for putting up with those suggestions, as well as we navigate a more tangible and quantifiable path. So having said that, I'd entertain any questions about the budget at this time for Dr. Smith. I have a couple of questions. Given the fact that Tumwa now has a wonderful GIS talent and backfilling, and you mentioned that it would be targeted for March, and I'm wondering, and you also mentioned that you would be looking at the potential of adjusting that salary. Does this budget reflect that projection of what you're referring to?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Yep.
I also think that all of us, including the entire state, are talking about budget. So I think it would be helpful if you don't do this already, but maybe periodically, or maybe what we can do is even decide if we can have just a budget update, just to see as a pulse rate where we're at, and then any adjustments. And then that way, if things have to be adjusted, you're not having to wait a long time. The fact that what you all do technology-wise is you have to have the technology that you're talking about. You have to have that power to deal with all of the highly intensive, highly, graphics and everything that you have to do. So I just think it would be helpful to actually have that periodically. I don't want to put a burden on staff on having to just do reports to do reports. I think it's more just to give everyone an idea and reviewing that. I don't know what the board feels, but I'd like to make that suggestion. Yes. Okay. Oops, sorry.
Smith looking forward in terms of this technology change. At my own company, we depend highly on GIS, and I can attest to what he's saying in terms of them changing the platform, requiring individual user licenses and so on. And I'm really pleased with your comments about us needing to maintain our technological edge. I mean, I think he said it well. We've gone to pictures, essentially maps, in our planning and what's on our website. And in order to stay current and actually have them do their job, I think that element of the budget's critical. I like the idea of going to a CPI because when I was chair, it seemed to me that we had to renegotiate this every year with the cities and the county, and it just seemed to be an extraordinarily, it sort of made a mountain out of a molehill. Either we're going to have the agency and properly support it or not. And I think this moves it in that direction where we're going to have this agency, we're going to do the work, and we've streamlined the process of setting the revenue increases as needed. So I think that's a good innovation. So I'm supportive of what was presented here today.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I think the review, we kind of get that anyways about half year because we're planning our budget for the next year. So I think that's part of our system already.
Well, thank you for having a system in place that actually gives us an opportunity to review the budget accordingly. Thank you. Did I make a disclosure that I'm still new?
It's okay.
Thank you.
I was new.
You
We all were
at one
new.
time?
I was
Every
new
time.
10 years ago, but I was new.
Well, thanks to all of you for having the foresight to have that done. So any other questions for Dr. Smith or comments? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion at this time to approve as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
Great.
Dewar.
Member Dewar has made the motion. Do we have a second? We have a second by Member Rodriguez. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Smith, and everyone for all their hard work. We'll move now to item 8A, the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees member, Ms. Smith.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. I'd like to start my report first with some very important appreciation for our partners at the City of Reno. They applied for and received a $1 million grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development that they're investing in solar-powered flashers to increase pedestrian safety for our children and all of our neighbors across the City of Reno. And just wanted to say thank you so much on behalf of the Washoe County School District. Something that we pay very close attention to here with the governing board is our developments, where schools are located, and the importance of getting children and their families safely to and from school. So that partnership is something we really appreciate. Also wanted to thank Dr. Smith and then also Chair Andriola and Vice Chair Vanderwell for the very productive small group meeting that we had regarding PRS in schools. We found that to be incredibly helpful for us, and we look forward to see the work to come on that. In other news that we have, our Board of Trustees did vote to close Pine Middle School following the next school year. So that means the upcoming 2025-26 school year will be the last year that Pine Middle School will be in operation as a middle school. We will be rebuilding a new school at that site. It will be an elementary school to serve that immediate area, along with other adjacent neighborhoods as well. Those zoning conversations will take place. We will, of course, be following all of our best practices. And I do want to note that this change is also represented in our facilities modernization plan, and then also our 5-year regional plan as well, too. Also wanted to let everyone know that there will be a groundbreaking for the new Stead Elementary School that will be rebuilt. And so all of the members of the governing board and, of course, all of your peer members of your governing bodies will also be invited to that. And that's what I have for today.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Ms. Smith? Thank you, and thanks for all your participation in the meetings too, by the way. They've been really, really helpful. I'll go ahead and close that item and move to 8B, Members and Directors Report. Dr. Smith.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. Jeremy Smith for the record. Just a quick report from me. So one of the topics that's come up recently in our region is data centers. There's been some work done at the city of Reno. There's been some talk in the news, and the Regional Planning Commission actually asked staff to track data center proposals and approvals, and also to do some investigation and provide information about data centers. And so we've actually convened local planning staff, had a meeting, talked about folks' perspective on that topic, and we're actively engaged in gathering information to provide context around stuff like, if a data center has certain power needs, how does that equate to a number of houses? Or how does that compare to other industrial uses? Likewise, with water consumption, we're looking at those relationships, and also land utilization to employment, these kinds of relationships to bring some contextual information to the conversation. So really kind of a tracking role and also an informational role to provide that to this body, the RPC, the jurisdiction staff, anyone who is interested. So that's happening. As President Smith mentioned, we've been hosting small group meetings. So we've been engaged in a long-term project, initiative, if you will, to try to understand the nexus, the intersection of what regional planning should be doing in terms of approvals for new schools. And there's been talk of the concept of projects of regional significance, talks with regard to a policy direction that might be useful in terms of providing some guidance to the jurisdictions to create consistency around school approvals and what school developers, either public, charter, or private, could expect. And so we're making progress, actually. We had as I reported last time, we had a great large group meeting between a set of stakeholders, diverse set of school stakeholders, and we got some really good consensus on the concept of what we do in terms of long-range planning, putting that information together. And we're really still trying to figure out that other piece. Is there a role for this PRS mechanism? Is there a role, around the actual approval from a policy direction? I will say that this group of folks, great group of folks, very difficult to get in a room at the same time. So it's been a scheduling effort, to say the least. And so we shifted a bit from trying to get the large group back together to keep making some momentum into targeting each group and doing some small group meetings. And those have been really productive. We have 2 more coming up later this month. And then I am in the works to try to get the entire group back together in advance of our April meeting. So hopefully we can come to you with a final consensus approach that we suggest and recommend, and get your take, and then move on forward down the line with this thing. So we're making progress. I think we're really close, and I appreciate everyone's participation and patience as we get there. Finally, there is some news I left on the agenda that our next regularly scheduled meeting would be on April 10th in these chambers. However, there is actually a tour that has been set up and proposed by Kim Rigdon at the Western Regional Water Commission to take some of the members present here, along with myself, down to Orange County to tour the Orange County Water District sanitation system and how they deal with their effluent in terms of trying to learn those technologies and how they can be applied here. It's something that we're involved in with our projections. We routinely work with the wastewater, water planners, effluent managers to understand what we think is coming down the pike in terms of development and where and what those impacts would be for effluent disposal, wastewater treatment, et cetera. So it makes sense, I think, as part of this One Water Nevada thing that we're involved in for us to attend this. So that means that we're looking to reschedule the April meeting of the Regional Planning Governing Board to another date. I've tentatively thought maybe the following Thursday, the 17th, could be a good one. But what I've planned to do is reach out to each and every one of you and your assistants for scheduling and get that ball rolling immediately so we can get that meeting date set. So please stay tuned for an email from me on that front. With that, concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I think we all should be aware that we may be giving Dr. Smith an honorary doctorate for scheduling, because what he has had to go through is worthy of an honorary doctorate. Thank you so much. Ms. Prenti, legal counsel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prenti for the record. I have nothing to report today. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead and close item 8, move to item 9, board comments and requests for future agenda items.
Ms. Andriola?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to report, and I don't think I reported on this before, but if I did, pardon me, but I want, as an adjunct to the earlier report about the schools and the PRS, we did in Reno in January approve a change in our Title 18, which is our regulatory requirements. And we changed school applications generally at a threshold of 400 students, I believe it was. And I don't recall exactly, it was 400 or 450. I think it was 400. To now require a, not just a staff level review, which was called a minor conditional use permit, but a review that would go to our planning commission so that the public can know about each school that rises to the level of 400 students. So we know that we've been waiting for a long time for this discussion on PRS. It's been going on, you know, I started it when I was chair, so it's been going on like at least 4 years, maybe longer. We decided to just take the bull by the horns and require schools of a certain size to come before our planning commission so that the public could have an opportunity, a better opportunity to weigh in. They can speak to staff, but this makes it public. This is a set time and date where they can register their support or concerns. And we've just implemented, it applies to all schools. So whether they're public or private charter schools, whether they're regular public schools under Washoe County School District, it's just across the board fair for everyone. And in this way, we should be able to deal with the traffic issues, which seem to be the number one kind of issue that gets triggered. The second thing is doing that as well. People know about it. And if they have a concern that our planning commission hasn't been able to address, they will be able to elevate that to the city council with an appeal process. And so we just thought we should take the bull by the horns and get this done. I would encourage my Sparks and Washoe County colleagues to consider doing something similar. Up to now, we've all done it the same, which is just a staff level review, or at least the last, let's say, 8 to 10 years. And so you too may want to take this step. And when the next time your chapters come up for evaluation, you may want to consider taking this step. And I just wanted to share that because that's a pretty big change given everything we've talked about here at the Planning Commission.
Thank
Governing
you.
board.
Thank you, Mr. I think you'll be happy to know that not only the City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County staff were in the meeting, and we heard and were reviewed on each jurisdiction and how they're approaching that. So that passage of the ordinance that you put in place to address schools was also discussed in length and is going to be shared. So thanks
Okay,
for all
good.
your hard work on that.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other comments?
Oh, there is
Whoops.
one other comment.
Okay.
I do want to encourage any of you that haven't been able to go to tour the Orange County water systems. It's really interesting. A number of members of the Western Regional Water Commission and TUMWA have already attended these tours in the last 2 years. And you learn a lot and you can really see a different way of delivering water. And I think it's important for all of us to know about this advanced purified water type system where we take sewage and turn it into drinking water through extensive sanitation and treatment. It's very good to have a redundant water supply, a backup should something happen to other water supplies, a water supply for growth. I mean, it offers a lot. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions from our community about these things. And so the more you can know about it, the better. And I think if you ask anyone who's gone, which probably half of the members of this board have gone, they'll support the rest of you having this opportunity to go on the trip. And the reason, again, that I think it's important is not just to know what's going on and what the future looks like, but there's also, I think, probably going to be bills in the legislature about how these systems are handled statewide. And we are the first community in Nevada that is doing this process. We're doing a more extreme process in that we're storing the water underground for 5 years before we ever drink it. Nobody else does it that way, and I think as time goes on, DEP, our Nevada DEP is considering changing their process, and I've heard that it'll be a bill, maybe it's already been filed, if not this session, certainly next one, but very possibly this session, to allow us to do a system more like what they do in Orange County and other places, Denver, many communities across the U.S. So just an encouragement to consider going on the trip if you can.
Thank you. Any other items? Anyone, Kathleen, or anyone online? If you're raising a hand that I can't see, sorry. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close item 9. We're moving to public comment. Do we have any public comment at this time?
We have none.
We need to call Mr. Abbott on the phone and see if, okay, do we have any written correspondence?
No, there's none.
Thank you. I'd like to again welcome the new members, Member Anderson and Member Rodriguez. Here we go. So thank you so much. I'll go ahead and call adjournment at 3:05.